Voice has started shouting to treat his injuries immediately because he urgently needed help. Sometime later he began waking up. He sat up, his body covered in bandages with horror yawning beside him. Wong was amazed, saying it was a miracle he was already awake. He mentioned that the boy had been out cold like a corpse for 2 days straight. The boy, however, simply noted that people had taken care of his body, but then he ripped the bandages off, startling Huang. The wounds on his back had already healed completely. The old man couldn't understand what kind of miraculous regeneration this was. The glasses guy stood nearby and said he'd been worried the boy might never wake up. He added that he was very happy to finally thank him for saving everyone, but the protagonist only replied that he should forget about it, as he'd get far for himself. Then he asked if the guy who had fought alongside him was already dead. The Mohawk guy stood up and told him to stop killing off people who were still alive. Coughing up blood, he assured everyone his body was tough and resilient. The glasses guy then asked why he had helped everyone if he wasn't one of the bad guys. The Mohawk guy seemed surprised they had that impression of him. He explained that it was because gangsters were always hanging around him. He tried to clarify, saying he had nothing to do with those people. Everyone thought he was a subordinate of that Liminek, but he acted independently. Someone commented that no matter how they looked at him he seemed very dangerous, but he just replied not to judge a book by its cover. That's when Harvard fully woke up and asked the protagonist if he was already awake and feeling okay. But he only asked her why she was sitting beside him if she didn't seem injured like everyone else. Irritated, she said that's what she got for worrying about him. Wong then mentioned that for the entire time the boy was unconscious she stayed by his side. She tried to deny it, saying it wasn't true and that she would never stay near someone who didn't even know her name. But then the Mohawk guy chimed in, saying he remembered her. When he woke up amidst the chaos, he had seen her running by and thought was incredible. He had never seen anyone move so fast in his life. Oddly, Harvard placed a hand on her forehead, stood up and walked off, leaving everyone confused. The protagonist watched her and noticed she didn't seem happy. Then he remembered the woman from before who had said she knew he didn't like her. But at least he could show concern for Haru. For the first time he called her by her name and asked if he had pronounced it correctly. She paused for a moment and then walked away, saying he had. Later, a guy with glasses came to explain the situation. Only 12 people had survived, and the past few days 43 bodies had been found. Wong stated that they had lost 80% of the people. The glasses guy continued, saying they had discovered something strange when collecting the bodies. Most of them seemed to have been drained of blood like ancient mummies. One of the women said she had seen the moment a monster latched onto someone and started extracting their blood. Another woman gasped, saying she was confused and wanted to know what kind of monster it was. There was talk that it might be some kind of government experiment. The glasses guy said he'd heard that theory but didn't believe it. He'd heard they appeared suddenly from the sky. What did that make them? Aliens or something? A man with a mustache interrupted, saying there was something more important to discuss. What was the identity of the boy? Everyone turned to look at him, and the man said he had seen what the boy did and how he already knew the method to kill each of those monsters. The protagonist simply replied that he had spent his whole life preparing for the apocalypse. He showed a photo, saying it was the only thing that had brought him to this point. A woman with her arms crossed said that, to be honest, the photo wasn't enough to trust him. After all, it could easily be forged. Not to mention how strange it was that he claimed to have spent his whole life training in a basement. And the most confusing part, how he already knew the apocalypse was coming. As the boy expected, no one believed him. Then the woman said there was one exception. She remembered everything he had done to kill the creatures and said that after everything he had done for the people there, everyone would believe what he said. He stood there a bit confused when the woman tried to punch him. He dodged easily and she apologized, saying she was just testing to see if he was really trained. Wong said he believed in the boy too, because when he started taking care of him, his body was covered in scars. This made him think that for someone his age, it didn't make sense. In fact, for any ordinary person, it wouldn't make sense to have so many scars. Haru asked how he got so many scars. He explained that he gradually accumulated them while trying to escape the basement. She paused for a moment and said it must have been really hard for him. But he simply replied, no, those scars were proof that he had fought. So he didn't see them as a memory of hard times. Suddenly someone yelled out saying they didn't believe him. It was the man with the mustache, demanding to know why he already knew about the apocalypse and didn't warn anyone. If everyone had known, they could have prepared. The protagonist thought back to how his father believed humans were enemies. That was why he chose not to cooperate with anyone. Even now, he didn't trust these people. But remembering everything that had happened, he knew they had helped him. He wasn't sure why his father taught him that humans were evil. But at the very least, he believed these people weren't that bad. The woman said that no matter what he was important to the people here. That was because he was the only one who could kill the monsters. The Mohawk guy remarked that if he knew the weak point too, the boy wouldn't be the only one. He'd just swing his hammer and the monster would die. The glasses guy suggested that if he found his mother, he might get information about the monsters. But the man with the mustache asked what they would do with that information. It's not like they'd survive another day because of it. The only reason they were lucky was that the entrance to this place was completely covered. That's why the monsters hadn't found them yet. They'd have to go deep underground or there was no light to finally reach this place. But that was it. That tiny bit of luck was all they had. However, it wasn't impossible for the monsters to find them again in attack. The Mohawk guy told him to stop being so pessimistic, especially since they had plenty of supplies. Until they realized all the food they'd stored had been crushed. He asked if they weren't confusing the location of the storage. One person said it seemed they weren't, while the lazy one grabbed a can and walked off. Later, everyone gathered at the escalator. Juan commented that now they reached this point they needed some people to go up and collect food. The Mohawk guy volunteered, saying he was tired of suffocating down here. But everyone knew his wounds hadn't healed yet, so he had to stay. The same went for the poor glasses guy. The doctor told them not to remove their bandages and to keep resting. He mentioned that someone uninjured should go. The sleephead obviously didn't want to volunteer. Everyone said that leaving this place was basically a suicide mission. The putter guy also said he wasn't interested. Who even was this guy? Juan pointed out that at this rate they have serious problems since they only had enough food for one more week. That's when the protagonist stepped forward and said he would go. The man immediately thanked him, saying he felt much safer if it was him. The boy explained that you have to go anyway to find more information about the photo. Maybe you even find it better based than this one. He climbed the escalator, saying that the most important thing was that he hated living in basements. Someone said they'd go with him. A girl and another glasses guy who seemed ready to die for sure. They apologized for not helping earlier, but said this time they wanted to contribute. The girl said she had gained courage after seeing him fight, was sure she could do something. The glasses guy said he wanted to take some risks too, especially since the boy had put his life on the line for everyone. If it had been up to him, he'd have just run away if he could. Juan then asked if anyone else wanted to go. He looked over and Horror was standing there, but she lowered her head and he thought about how hard things must have been for her. Everyone got ready and called for a protagonist, but he didn't seem enthusiastic. They asked if he was going to prepare and he asked what the problem was. They wanted to know if he wasn't going to take any supplies or put on clothes instead of just walking out in his underwear. That's when the woman from afar said she had sewn some clothes for him while he was unconscious. He seemed a bit surprised and she told him to be happy because it was an honor. She might not look like it, but she was his first-class designer. Before all this started, people would line up to wear what she made. Not that it mattered anymore since all her clients had disappeared. The protagonist then remembered how he received clothes in the basement. He told his father that he had heard people on the surface were all kinds of different styles. So why did he always wear the same old, dirty shirts? His father showed him that it was all they had. He told the boy not to be disappointed as he lived the same way. The protagonist explained to the woman that wearing different clothes had been one of his dreams on the surface and he thanked her for making them for him. She was startled but then smiled. She said